Given my limited availability to review e-bikes, since I also have a day job, I am selective of the companies that I work with, and after spending 2 weeks with this next folding fat tire e-bike, I'm glad that I gave Kingbull a chance. Hello everybody, this is Matthew Miller, otherwise known as Palm Solo, and thanks for visiting the Mobile with Matt YouTube channel, where I cover e-bikes, mobile technology, and many other things. I appreciate your views and support. The PR folks at Kingbull reached out to me on Twitter and sent me a direct message. And then back and forth, they asked me what color of Literider I would like to test, and I said green. Turns out that green bike wasn't available for several months, but as you can see in front of me, the bike is here. And it's really great to see so many high-quality e-bikes available in that $1,000 or less range, and I paid a lot more for e-bikes when I started riding them 7 years ago. If you can leave your car at home and get things done on an e-bike like this, you can justify the cost and have lots of fun. The Kingbull Literider arrived in a typical box, and the top of it had a lot of accessories that I'll mention later in my review. There's fenders, lights, and all the other little parts and pieces, including the front wheel. As you can see, it comes mostly assembled, with the front wheel and the front part of the bike requiring most of the work. So after undoing all of the different packaging materials, you position the handlebars in place, and then you have to do a little rotation. And then the next thing, of course, is to connect the front wheel, and there's some cabling and things there. One thing I've learned over time is that you must attach the fender and the front light in most cases before the front wheel, or it's very difficult to get that fender and light in place. Then the wheel pops on and you put the wheel together. The bike's pretty close to being assembled. It did come with the kickstand on there, and just have to do the pedals a little bit later. But it's primarily just the front wheel and the front assembly, and then the bike will be ready to go. So let's start off with some key specifications. The frame on this bike is the typical e-bike frame, right? It's made out of the 6061 aluminum alloy. And this one actually has a 350 millimeter step-through area right here above that handle. It weighs in at 71 pounds. So it's not super light, but it is enough to be able to handle, and they do have that handle positioned perfectly to be able to pick that bike up. It does have a large carrying capacity of 400 pounds. So me weighing in at 235 means I can carry a lot more with this bike. It is built for people from 5'1" to 6'5". And sometimes we see these bikes, especially on these folding bikes, they can't really handle that upper height. But this one, I currently have it at a level 4 or so, and I still have room to go higher. So it does actually fit my 6'1" frame, and I think a 6'5" rider would be perfectly fine on this bike. It does have the handlebars that fold down, but it also has an adjustment. You can raise these handlebars up. So if you are tall or you just like a higher handlebar, you can adjust that as well. So the battery on this bike is a large one. It's 48 volts, 15 amp hour, 720 watt hours, and that is positioned right here in the frame. Many times on these folding bikes, we see the battery positioned back under the seat. And this one is positioned on the frame, which we see on a lot of other bikes. And one interesting aspect to this battery is there's actually another cover here that if you raise it up, there's a physical switch to turn the battery on and off. So if you're going to keep it sitting for a while and you don't want to remove the battery, you can also turn that off. One thing to remember though is when you come over here to turn on the bike and it's not responding, make sure you check that switch to make sure that you don't have that battery turned off. This bike has a 750 watt rear hub motor with 1300 watts of peak power and an ample 80 Newton meters of torque with that rear hub motor and the cadence sensor. Kingbull advertises 30 miles of range on the throttle, and for the throttle pedal assist, it advertises at level 1 up to 50 miles and level 5 up to 24 miles. I'll speak about my experiences in a little while. Those ranges from Kingbull are based on a 180-pound person on flat ground, and that's pretty hard for me to find because I'm 235 pounds and it's not very flat where I live. It does have a Shimano 7-speed transmission, 80 millimeter front suspension fork for that additional comfort, and 5 levels of pedal assist. There are those puncture resistant fat tires, the 20 by 4 inch with the anti-slip tread. It does have a very comfortable saddle that's nice and cushy for extended riding. It does also have 180 millimeter disc hydraulic brakes and a backlit LCD display with a USB port. And this display is the M6C, which is very much like what I've been using on the newer electric bikes. It has that same 3-button controller over here with a plus minus in the power, and then that same color LCD display that we see on electric, and I do like that display. On the right side, it does have a twist throttle, which I find very convenient for many bikes, and there's also two other buttons on this side that I'll talk about in a little bit. It does have a large, bright 48-volt LED headlight, and also an integrated tail light that serves as a brake light, which you know from watching my videos, I love that rear tail light. It also, by default, comes with the fenders and the rear rack, so it has everything you need. Talking a little bit more about the bike, it is a folding bike, so the handlebars fold down, the pedals both fold up or down, however you want to word that, and then the center of the bike frame will fold in half as well. And then make sure you rest the bike on the integrated little kickstand that when it's in that folded position, it can rest there. And make sure that the kickstand is also up when you fold it. It makes it a lot easier. Now, this bike being folded doesn't mean that you're going to be able to haul it around with ease. It is pretty heavy, but the folding is nice to store the bike. And even if the handlebars are folded and the pedals are folded, that might be enough to slide it in the slot if you don't want to fold it completely. So swinging back over to the controller, I mentioned that the display is that color LCD display, and it has attached to that the 3-button controller, very much like electric, with a plus and a minus for the pedal assist, and then a power button. To the left of that, though, we have 2 other buttons, and these are dedicated buttons for the headlight and a dedicated button for the horn. So that's something that we do not see on those electric bikes, which is nice to have. I love the convenience of having that horn and light right there close to you, and it is really good on an electric bike to have a horn. So it has that vibrant colored display that shows the battery level on the energy bars we've seen before, speed, the lighting, whether it's on or off, the riding mode, and the assist level. So now let's talk about some of my riding experiences. And we're going to continue that same trend of what I've tested on every bike that I have tested for the past several months. So as you know, I live on the top of a hill, and I've got to go 13 to 15% incline into that neighborhood. I also took this bike out around the other neighborhoods that even had some steeper hills. And the great thing about this, with that nice torque that it does have, I was able to go up the steepest hills in throttle only mode at 8 miles per hour and faster, depending on the angle of the hill. So this thing can go up with just throttle and carrying me. Now, with just a little bit of pedaling and in that lowest gear and the pedal assist at 5, I was able to get up to 14 or 15 miles per hour with just a little bit of effort. One nice thing about having a bike like this with a big motor and a big battery is to take it out and ride it like a motorcycle. So you put that throttle test, and one thing I really like about Kingbull here and other bikes is when that throttle speed is associated with the selected pedal assist level. Often we see the throttle is either on or off. We'll provide 0 miles per hour to 20 or 28 with the pedal assist level not having any impact. On this one, it does have an impact. So in my testing, at a pedal assist level 1, I was able to go 10 miles per hour. Level 2, 14 miles per hour. Level 3, 20 miles per hour. Level 4, 24 miles per hour. And with level 5, I achieved that 28 mile per hour speed on this bike. Now, Kingbull advertises 30 miles in throttle mode, but of course that's heavily dependent on what level of throttle you're using and your terrain that you're riding on. So in my experience, typical riding experiences, I was seeing a range of 20 to 24 miles, usually at that 2 to 3 level of throttle speed. I don't like to ride at 28 miles per hour all the time. I use that when I am in traffic or I want to get out of something, but I generally hang in the 20 mile per hour range for most of my riding. Now, speaking of most of my riding, flat distance test and pedal assist is where I ride most of my e-bikes, and Kingbull advertises 24 to 50 miles with pedal assist, depending on your level of assist, of course. So given the power of the bike, I really, like I mentioned, I kept it at that 2 or 3 level most of the time, even on pedal assist, like I did in the throttle. And in that 2 and 3 range, I was able to get a range of about 30 miles in my testing. And then the last kind of riding experience is if everything dies and I have to get this bike home, Can I get it home with no battery, no assist, or anything else? This bike is not light at 71 pounds, and the tires are not huge. They're fat tires with a lot of friction and resistance. So I was able to ride it with no battery. It was fairly slow due to those factors. I would not want to ride this with no battery just for fun or exercise, but in a last-ditch effort, I will. So now just looking at the bike overall as a package, right? After I unboxed the bike, I was immediately impressed with the fit finish of the bike, right? It's got a beautiful green color. If you look at the welds on the aluminum, they are very prominent, but they're very consistent and well done. These are some nice welds on this bike. Everything feels rock solid. There was nothing that wobbled or felt loose. There is several wires in the front, but in a folding bike, you're just not going to avoid those wires. So it was also nice to see the fenders, the rack, the comfortable seat, everything that you wanted came with this bike. It does have a lot of power for a folding bike, and I was impressed by that ability to get up my hill with just the throttle alone. And lots of speed, so hang on tight when you're riding the bike. Now, if you're looking for areas for improvement, I usually try to find something because there's always something wrong with a bike. Honestly though, for a folding fat tire bike, and you got to remember what category you're talking about here, the Kingbull Literider has everything I could want in this form factor, and it's reasonably priced at just under $1,000. Speaking of pricing, so the bike comes in at $999 in white, red, black, and this green. And if you use coupon code Matthew Miller, and I'll leave it in the comments below, you will get $50 off and save a little bit of money. Maybe that pays for your tax in your state or part of your tax. Also, when you buy this bike on Kingbull, the current accessories that it's including is a combination lock, some mirrors, a phone mount, a pump, and some bungee cords to help you tie things down on the back rack. The Kingbull Literider checks all the boxes for a folding fat tire bike. It has a bright front light, it has fenders, a rear rack to carry all of your supplies around, and it serves as a great bike just to get around town and get things done. It is heavy, so you aren't going to fold it and carry it up and down a lot of stairs, but folding it can help with storage and putting it in the back of a vehicle to go ride somewhere else. And with this bike, with those knobby tires and those fat tires, you could easily ride it for many hours on wooded trails, for example, or gravel forest roads. The carrying handle is well positioned and balanced, so you can get it up and in back of trunks or cars, or up and down in the storage area. Unlike many of these folding fat tire bikes, the battery is positioned up in the front frame rather than under the seat, so it's easy to remove and charge off the bike as well. If you're looking for a bike with this style, I would definitely consider a Kingbull bike, and it's always good to be more impressed than you thought after testing hardware. Thank you everybody for watching. Please subscribe and share, interact with me here, and stay tuned for more coverage of e-bikes, wearables, and other mobile technology. May the mobile force be with you.